So then, I have been... am I subbed on the main channel? Hold on, give me 1 second. I think I am. Let me just... It's going to have ads in it, so I'll swap over to that one. Am I subbed to Jay? Apparently, I'm not subbed to Jay. Okay, there we go. I'm subbed to Jay now. Even though I have commented on the video, I actually have not watched it yet. I saw the video. I was like, hey, let's put funny comment on there. So I made a reference to Jurassic Park, but I've not seen the video yet. I've heard people talking about it. I've not heard anyone make complaints, which is a good start. That's a very good start when a big tech YouTuber looks at Linux. Judging by the title, he had a positive experience. I know he used Bazzite. I don't know what else he's looked at, but he definitely did make use of Bazzite. We have Mr. John Bazzite over here leaving a comment. Anyway, let's check out JayzTwoCents video on the Linux.
As you can see, it's working. It's working flawlessly.
How many monitors are in frame right now? Is that 9 monitors in frame? Jesus Christ. I don't think I even own 9 display cables.
Not because we needed new cables and stuff, but because we
How's the
switched
audio level, by the way?
to Linux. So welcome to the very first Linux video I'm ever going to have made on this channel. I say ever going to have made because I might do some follow-ups to us trying out this box here that we built.
Also, Air Max was in the comments. He was in the replies to my video.
But in
to my comment.
Time that I have been doing YouTube, every of the time since August 26, 2012, I have never touched a Linux topic in my life. Why? Because you guys scare the shit out of me because you guys are some opinionated mother...
This is true. He's not wrong. But at the same time, I think Jay would fit right in. Like, let's not pretend that Jay is also not incredibly opinionated. Right? Like, you have a lot of shit to say. You have very strong opinions. Don't be scared away from other people who also have really strong opinions.
Enhance your professional monitor setup with the ViewSonic VP27885K, featuring 100% sRGB, 99% DCI-P3 colors, and HDR400 for deep contrast that align perfectly with Mac's industry-leading color performance. The VP27885K supports laptops, PCs, Macs, and more with Thunderbolt 4.
Yeah, no I love the marketing. Like, how do you market a monitor? It supports laptops and PCs. Like, yeah, it's a monitor.
USB-C, HDMI DisplayPort, and USB inputs. If you're looking to increase your screen real estate for projects, click the link in the description for more.
Wow.
Yeah, how come you're not using Arch Linux?
Yeah, brother! True! True and real! Use Arch!
The last time I touched the Linux kernel was Ubuntu back in like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. It's been a long time.
Sure.
That was back when I worked in a software development office and I was bored.
Why does it take up the entire React segment? Probably not.
I had a laptop up and was messing around in that, but I never got serious about it. So today's perspective is going to be a gaming system for Linux. Well, a gaming system built running.
Please, for the love of God, don't talk about SteamOS. Like, it's one thing to mention SteamOS. That's okay. That's okay to, like, mention that that's the thing that Valve's using. But please, please, Jay, I beg of you, do not mention how important it is for SteamOS to be on the desktop. That's all I ask for you.
Linux. To kind of just see what it's like from a very beginner's perspective. Look, I am not.
I know he uses
Bazzite.
Linux.
And what I'm going to ask of you guys, because I want to get aggressive with you down in the comments and start blocking people and stuff, you are going to probably have a different way to approach this. That's the thing with Linux being open source, is the fact that there is a bajillion different ways that you can do it. And yes, what is the old saying? You can tell the people that are running Arch because they'll tell you. Do you know how many of you told me you're running Arch?
See, this is like the funny thing about it. Like, Arch people don't like, yes, it's a funny joke that Arch people do it, but actually, if you want to talk about the people that will tell you the distro they are using, fucking NixOS people. Holy shit, NixOS people are obsessed with everybody knowing that they're using NixOS. I don't care that you're using NixOS. I don't care that NixOS solves packaging problems. Fuck off.
In the comments of the video where we were running Bazzite. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. We're running Bazzite. It's a very easy install process. You're up and running very fast. It was pretty flawless. In fact, that's what got our stuff working back there, even though I spent another $100 and something on cables I didn't need to spend. This is...
Yeah, but Lace is also, like, has other hobbies. That's the thing. Lace has, like, the Miata project, right? I mean people that... the only thing they're interested in is NixOS.
This is the system I built for that. So what I actually wanted to say before I started to say I don't want to get aggressive in the comments, if you have what you think is a better approach for this, please respectfully put it down in the comments. But
honestly, if he's looking for a gaming system, Bazzite's a totally valid choice. If someone wants to make a dedicated gaming box, yeah, I would probably point them towards Bazzite. Are there other things you could do? Sure. But at the end of the day, like, you're just going to end up basically remaking Bazzite anyway. So just use Bazzite. Saying this around the other day, Bazzite currently gets so much coverage from non-tech Linux YouTubers. I truly believe that eventually it can take Mint's spot as the noob Linux recommendation. Very possible. That is very, very possible. I do worry about that because it is an immutable system, and that does create additional problems on top of like a regular old system. But at the same time, the problems they're not like unsolvable problems, right? And FlatHub's gotten a lot better. There's a lot of applications included in the suite by default. I think this is possible. I don't know whether it's it's not without its additional challenges, right? But we'll have to wait and see. I do think it's a better recommendation than Mint at this point.
Include some information that's actually...
Like, you don't know how many times I've seen people go to Mint and then complain that, like, they have GPU issues because they're using the latest GPU generation and then it does, like, the drivers aren't up to date. Just dumb things like that.
Useful, not why did you go with Bazzite and not yada yada? Because guess what?
Nah,
that doesn't tell you
choice.
anything. All that does is come off as a pedantic put down. So, if you're going to recommend a different distro of some sort, say, I recommend this distro because, and it has a user rating in terms of difficulty 1 to 10 of put a
Just
number.
use Bazzite.
Now,
Doesn't
keep
matter.
in mind, if you're approaching people that are beginners, what might seem like a 5 difficulty to you might be a 10 to someone that's new. So try to put yourself back in perspective of being new. I know it's hard for a lot of you Linux folks, but bear with me. We're going to try this here today. So here's the system that I built. It is running a 14700K and is easy.
This has nothing to do with Linux, but I genuinely hate, like, mini PCs. Not because, like, there's anything wrong with them, but because I don't want to fucking build in something like this. This looks like a nightmare to build in. I know why people like them. It's nice and small and all this good stuff, but holy shit. It looks like a mess to work with.
790 ITX board from ASRock, Phantom Gaming. Really, because it's the only ITX board that I have. 32 gigabytes of DDR5 running 6400 mega transfers at CL38.
What does it go as a GPU? I wonder.
Super fast or crazy. It does have a 240 millimeter AIO that is cooling it. It's an old Fantex.
Where? How the fuck does something that small fit a 240 AIO? Sure. Okay.
MPG or MPH 240. We used to joke around it's the miles per hour. It's got an 850 watt SFX power supply because we are also, for the GPU, running a 20 gigabyte 7900 XTX AM.
He went with an AMD card. He's done his research.
AMD card. And the reason for that is Linux support for AMD graphics cards tends to be better than Nvidia. Although Nvidia does seem to be improving in terms of the graphics support, at least on...
What the fuck? What am I listening? We're actually hearing a mainstream tech YouTuber actually say real things about Linux. What the fuck is this world? Nvidia on Mint is, so many people ask why they have issues with games that they're using Mint. There are DX12 issues on Nvidia. That's fun.
Bazzite, because Phil actually went home after he did the wall. Phil set this up and set himself up a dual boot laptop that runs Bazzite as well, and he was playing Cyberpunk and other games and kind of doing some performance comparisons and stuff, and said everything appeared to be working. DLSS was working, ray tracing was working. Like, it was a pretty seamless experience. Like, he also set it up on his desktop, which,
to be fair, Bazzite is one of the better options if you want to have it. If you're using a NVIDIA GPU, they do all that stuff for you. You know what? Now that Jay's video is out, I think that actually is a really good idea. Because now you have LTT's coverage of like mainstream tech coverage, PewDiePie's coverage as like grassroots hacker, and then Jay's coverage from the other side of that mainstream coverage.
is an RTX 4080 with a 13700K, and that was another flawless experience for him. In fact, if you're just in there playing the game and you hand the controls to someone and they're playing, they would never know they're playing on Linux. That's how seamless it is. Now, obviously, there's gonna be limitations to what you can do with Linux. Now, in terms of desktop and software support, you gotta look into individual software you want to run to see if it has Linux installs and the level of support that's going to be supported for the OS. But like, for instance, OBS does have, if you wanna do live streaming, it does have a Linux install. This, like, for instance, my Insta360 Link 2 camera that's got the gimbal and all that does have a driver and stuff that works.
Really? I would not have expected that.
But it's unknown yet, because I haven't tried it, whether or not I'll get the software to run, which gives me the gimbal control. So it might
I would assume not.
turn the device into the most basic version of the device. So for instance, my Rodecaster 2, which we use in our podcast room, yes, I know we haven't podcasted in forever, hopefully this Friday. But anyway, I digress. It basically, the software itself won't run in Linux, which allows me to drag and drop like sound effects and pad samples and all that sort of stuff. However, everything else, it'll work as like a giant DAC at that point. And that's okay for Linux if I don't care about the sound pads and stuff and programming them, because everything we would need that to do is actually controlled on board the Rodecaster. So all of the mixer and all of the compressors and all that stuff is built in. It doesn't need the software to run. However, what we do use the software for is when we record the audio and offload that into the software, which then transcodes it into an MP3 for us that we upload to Buzzsprout to then syndicate it to all of the podcasting services. That is built into the software. So we would have to figure out a workaround for that. It's not impossible. It's just these are the kinds of things that you take on when you go into an open source OS like Linux or any of the...
I don't use any fancy podcaster gear. I just have a mixer that goes into USB, and then it all just does magic things in OBS. I personally don't have this problem, but I also never really cared to get like fancy, complex gear anyway.
Million distros that are out there versus all the native Windows support. So kind of in a nutshell, for gaming, pretty good support. Content creation, we'll give it a middle thumb depending on what you're trying to do. Like Adobe and all that really isn't going to work on Linux. However, DaVinci Resolve theoretically does. DaVinci
is actually really good. I've got the podcast with No Plans coming out soon. The guy who like runs No Plan, he also runs a media production company, and he makes TV ads on Linux using GIMP, using DaVinci Resolve, just a fully open source stack.
So we haven't tried it, but that's what we're reading. And then when it comes to like, there's a lot of other programs and stuff that just straight up aren't going to work on Linux at all. But fortunately, though, there's like OpenRGB and a lot of third-party support.
DaVinci is a kind of a pain to like. It's very dependency specific. I would recommend if you're gonna try to use DaVinci, use where's the project? Is it called DaVinci Box? Yeah, DaVinci Box. Don't try to install it on your distro. It's gonna break. It's made for specifically one distro, Rocky Linux, and that is all. if you want to run it, use it in DaVinci Box. It's going to make your life so much better. It's gonna deal with all the dependency issues, and it's just gonna work far smoother.
To actually be able to control like your RGB software and stuff, or like Phil, for instance, has like the Razer Synapse stuff and other Razer devices and RGB devices that actually
I did see that, yeah,
in Linux through a program called OpenRazer that works in Linux. So you're gonna have your results and your mileage will vary. But like I said, we're using Bazzite today, so we're gonna set this up over here. Phil's gonna kind of walk me through it because I've never done it, and by him walking me through it, he's gonna be walking you through it.
Hi.
I've done this in a bit. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is obviously
Make it install media.
Yeah, we're gonna
easy.
assume that you already have at least one working computer
Or a laptop.
This is literally exactly the same as literally any other operating system. There's nothing special here.
or something.
Or friend's computer. So what does immutable mean?
The OS is on its own separate partition that's read-only from the user standpoint.
So you can't mess it up.
Basically, immutable just means it's a lot more
You can mess it up, but you got to try a lot harder to mess it up.
idiot-proof than your standard like Linux distribution, where
Because Linux is full power. Like most like
This guy looks like a Linux user. I feel like he's a Linux user.
Arch and all that, you can go in there and really mess things up.
that's Arch's whole philosophy is that
It's a build your own OS.
yeah, exactly. Build your own piecemeal, like, you know what I mean? You get the installer, you install what packages you want, et cetera, et cetera. Bazzite is like, let's take an already established distro like Fedora, make it immutable so that it's a lot more difficult for the user to kind of mess up the OS. And then
I shouldn't be impressed, but like, baseline research is...
let's add all of the
Christ.
gaming specific packages that things like SteamOS and Valve have done.
Now I want to step in real quick. A lot of people had negative things to say about it being an immutable because they're probably Linux power users.
He mentioned SteamOS in the context of Bazzite having improvements from SteamOS.
Add all of the gaming specific packages that things like SteamOS and Valve have done.
Now I want to step in real quick. A lot of people had negative things to say about it being an immutable because they're probably Linux power users, which is why you wouldn't want that. But this is, again, from the perspective of someone that maybe just built their first system, doesn't have Windows, doesn't want to buy Windows. You can...
I think the main issue I would take with an immutable system is software availability. I understand why you would give someone an immutable system if it's a dedicated gaming machine, but you are going to run into issues if it's a general machine with installing certain software. Like, that is going to happen. Is it going to break your experience? It really depends on what you need and where things are available. If your if your machine is Steam and a browser, yeah, Bazzite's fine. Literally no issue whatsoever. You can't write an immutable system. You can write an immutable system. You can't change out your desktop as easily, but you can definitely write it. The config files are stored in your home directory. I think for a lot of people, something like Bazzite is totally fine.
Get up in gaming with AAA titles like this for free.
Yep.
Now there's free ways to get Windows, but this is obviously an anti-Windows type of video here. So it says right here, own games outside of Steam, Lutris, which is pre-installed, and other launchers can only run games from most game stores.
Why am I naked? You've gotten so accustomed to me wearing the jacket. Maybe I should install Bazzite. Like, I know DistroBox is available, right? Like, you can absolutely deal with the problem, but it's like not as clearly documented as like installing a package on Ubuntu, right? Like, I'm pretty sure DistroBox is pre-installed. It's just you need to know about DistroBox to know that's a problem that you can solve that way. Honestly, DistroBox is the thing that really has ironed out a lot of those problems with the... No, not fucking Nix. Yes, okay, yes, you can use Nix, sure. But Nix introduces more problems. DistroBox is the thing that really irons out a lot of those, like, those package availability issues.
cleanly integrate them into Steam gaming mode, which includes EA app, Epic Games, GOG, itch.io, Rockstar, Ubisoft, your dad's old CDs, and more. So basically, it's like a one-stop gaming launcher OS type service, but you obviously have other things built into.
I wonder if it includes drivers for a floppy disk drive. I would assume those are in the kernel. I don't know if anyone wants to load a floppy disk for some reason.
Do it like you have your browser and a desktop, and you can stream from it and all that.
When we download Bazzite, you'll see the option for, if you click the button up there, so it starts with what hardware you're using.
Oh wait, what are the other hardwares? So desktop, home theater, PC, framework, desktop, handhelds. Okay.
Half of these buttons link to the exact same thing, by the way. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They link to the same thing, but it gives you this sort of... It gives you this, I guess, impression that the thing you select is better supported because it is something directly listed, right? Like, you know it's there, so you know it's going to work.
Okay. Laptops, and then VMs, obviously. All right, so desktop. What is the vendor of your primary GPU? So we're going to say AMD RX 4000 Plus. Oh, it even supports ARC. That's cool. ARC and Nvidia. And then what desktop environment do you prefer?
Once again, I think the AMD and... you know, let's actually check it right now. I'm pretty sure the AMD and the ARC ones literally take you to the same file. I actually think they do. But again, it's that, like... It's that reassurance that the thing you're getting is supported. Desktop, AMD, let's just say KDE, and then... Yes. So that gives us Bazzite deck. If we go Intel, that gives us Bazzite deck. Like, it's literally giving us the same file, right? But you click on it and it gives you that impression that like the thing you're selecting is going to be working because it is directly said, hey, it is working.
Steam OS, or what's GNOME?
GNOME is Fedora's default desktop environment. So the desktop environment is basically the user interface for the desktop mode.
So what do we have up here?
I have KDE up here just because I have a little
Because that's the correct choice.
bit more experience with it from Steam OS. This is the big one for basically if you want to run it as like a home theater PC or by default on a handheld, Steam gaming mode is enabled.
So what you're referring to is, do you want Steam gaming mode? This will automatically log into game mode and only supports a single user.
Yeah.
Which is that like big picture?
Yeah, it is exactly big picture. It's actually, in fact,
Yeah, it just uses the big picture mode as your desktop session.
exactly how Steam OS handles.
So I'm going to say no, because we still want this to be a full...
a desktop kind of computer in OS, yeah. So then you're just going to download the ISO. For Windows, I usually like to use Rufus for
Totally fair.
creating the USB.
Okay, so what about like motherboard drivers and like Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that would
adapter
imagine
and
that.
chipsets and USB and all that stuff.
So that's the crazy thing about modern Linux is that basically all of those drivers, all support for like most modern Ethernet and Wi-Fi controllers and Bluetooth controllers and stuff is all built into the OS.
But for the record, like...
Most, yeah, that's fair. There are definitely exceptions, but I'll give you most. I'm not going to be that pedantic.
The stigma has always been Nvidia support in Linux is terrible. But at least...
The main issue with Nvidia support is the fact that the drivers aren't upstreamed. So it's very easy to fuck that up. Like, when you want to install the Nvidia drivers, you need to load it as a kernel module, make sure you've got a couple of things configured, some boot parameters configured. Like, it's the reason why AMD is considerably easier is the kernel part's already done. You just have to install the user space package, and you can't really break that. Nvidia, you can break, though.
For Bazzite and your 4080, and
Also, Bazzite just does everything for you, so it doesn't even matter.
the games that you tried it on, it was pretty seamless.
Yeah.
From a Windows experience.
I've heard anywhere from like a minus 15% to like 25% performance hit. Although I didn't really see that in the games I tested, which was like...
Those numbers are kind of old. Nowadays, it's honestly probably closer to like 5%, and then in some cases actually better performance on Linux just because there's less overhead. I don't know where he got his 25% number from.
Cyberpunk and Control and a few other titles and stuff, but I haven't really
Yeah, you were seeing a couple of FPS difference.
Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
it's weird because even in Forza Horizon, I actually saw a gain in average FPS.
It's changing finally.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of just your mileage may vary depending on what game you're playing and like what architecture of Nvidia card it is. As far as AMD is concerned, I've always heard that it's basically either a negligible performance difference or it's faster under Linux. Okay, cool. So our ISO is downloaded, so you're gonna go ahead and open Rufus.
Okay, so Rufus is open. Do we need to format our drive or anything?
Nope, it's going to nuke everything that's on that drive.
Okay, disk or ISO image, right?
Well, Ventoy, you load onto the USB, and then you can just, like, drop the files in there. I know, yeah, Ventoy does definitely have problems with certain operating systems. The 40% impact is because Nvidia has the DX12 driver bug they don't care to fix. Okay, yeah, Nvidia might be the case. Yeah, sure, that's fair.
Yep.
Please select.
So click the
that's going to be the file, Bazzite,
Bazzite
the ISO.
AMD, and then just go ahead and hit start. Okay, we'll be back once the USB stick is burnt, and then burnt. Jeez, showing my age now.
It might burn it.
Once the USB stick is written, we'll be back, and then we will show you
still
how to
say
install it
burnt
on the computer.
So now take it to the system that we're going to install Bazzite on.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so now he's got the USB stick in the new computer, and
So we're going to go to BIOS and
He
choose
actually
boot
knows the
priorities to
button.
go to because this
I
drive
don't.
actually has a Windows OS on it. So we need that nuked, and then obviously we are going to reinstall Bazzite over top of it. All right, so we want to make the boot option number 1 our to reinstall.
Wait, I'm being lied to. I thought this was a benchmark running back here. Wait, we've been scammed. It's actually just VLC. What? I just smash all the keys. That's usually my go-to as well.
Install Bazzite over top of it. All right, so we want to make the boot option number 1 our Voyager. Because that's we're using the Corsair Voyager stick. So if I just restart now, it should boot to that drive. Now, obviously, based on your OS, it's going to probably look different, or not your OS, but your BIOS, it's going to look different. So you're going to have to kind of, if you don't know your BIOS very well, you're going to have to look that up and figure out what works best.
If you've built your PC, you can work out how to install a Linux ISO, right? Like, I understand if you've never built a PC before you, like, buy a pre-build, but, like, if you installed Windows, you can work out how to install Linux. You might not get past that. You might have issues later on. But if you worked out how to install Windows, you can install Linux.
but if you're building a brand new computer with nothing on the drive, then it'll just boot to the USB stick no matter what. Yeah.
So let's see, install Bazzite.
Yep.
Or test the media and install. Should we?
No, I don't do it. Just extra time. Gotta live life on the edge.
Yeah, brother.
So is that Bazzite 41 mean 4.1?
No, it's 41.
That many versions? Wow.
Remember how I said my first experience was in 2003 with Fedora 3?
Oh, yeah,
It's
How often does Bazzite release a new version? I assume it's, like, quite often.
41 now, so.
So it's going to look very hacker screeny. It's so going for the garbage file looking.
Oh, yeah.
Installation destination, no disk selected. So I just select the disk.
I would set the time and date.
That's a 4K monitor. I know exactly what I'm looking at right now. That is a 4K monitor. Oh, God. Yeah, no. This is why I don't buy 4K. That's fucking... This is not, like, every single thing struggles with this. This is not, like, a Linux-specific issue. But no scaling on 4K is just gross.
Time zone Los Angeles first.
Now select my drive.
Yep.
So select a system, installation, destination.
Hacker screen equals system D,
Okay,
basically.
So boom.
Storage configuration, automatic, and then I would check that box that says free up space by removing or shrinking existing partitions because we want to nuke whatever else is on there.
Okay, so click free up space by removing and shrinking existing partitions.
I am flashbanged.
And done.
Yep.
We don't want to preserve any of these partitions.
So
I
there's a
just delete
delete
them.
all button.
Yeah.
So do
Wham.
that.
Delete.
Wham.
And then hit reclaim space. And then if you want, you can connect to your network right now. Doesn't really matter.
Probably no point to, right?
Yep. And then the user will be default Bazzite with the password of Bazzite. And that's pretty much it as far as choices during install.
Hey, none of all those.
You don't set up your user in the Bazzite installer? That's weird. I don't know. Was there the option to do that? Hold up. It creates an admin account. Does it? Okay, I don't know why you would... There's an option to configure it there. I don't know why you wouldn't configure it during the setup. That's the weird choice.
And then the user will be default Bazzite.
And clearly the
password
option
of
that is
Bazzite.
there to do it.
And that's pretty much it as far as choices during install.
Hey, none of all those. We want to spy on new stuff.
Isn't that a bit refreshing?
Microsoft is no longer in the business of making OSs. The OS is nothing but a data mining tool.
Yeah, basically.
True. Yeah.
I'd love to know the real metrics on how much data Microsoft sells and how much money they make on the data versus the sales of Windows. Bet you they make more money on the sale of the data, which means they should just make Windows free at this point. So you're paying to be spied on.
Well, a lot of people get free upgrades, right? Like, a lot of people are not paying for Windows at this point. They don't really care if you don't pay for it, because they're still making money anyway. Like, you buying, you paid $100 for a Windows key. Wow, we made $100 on you. Don't give a shit about that.
Now it's done. So
now it says reboot system.
Click reboot, and then
take the drive out. I mean, it should automatically change the boot loader, I think, to this now, right?
Yep.
So.
If it's installed correctly.
Perform mock management.
That's
what is
for
mock?
So this is for secure boot stuff. You can just hit continue boot.
It's a little bitty wheel. Updating cargs. What's a carg? I bet you're gonna tell us.
Cool. So it's one.
I don't know what a carg is.
And it should be
Cargo package, I would assume.
Was that like a selector?
That was the bootloader. So one of the cool things about Bazzite and Fedora Atomic desktops is that you always get the current version of the OS, and then when it does an update, it keeps the last version as well. So in case an update breaks, you can get in the bootloader and then.
Cool. All right, so password should be Bazzite. Oh, I like that background. That's cool.
It's a nice background.
Okay, system fatal error, probably because we need internet. It does look very Windowsy so far.
Yeah, why didn't he set up the network during the install? Again, why? Like, he had the option to set up the network during the install. He's just like, nah, don't care. We'll do it later. Like, set up the network during the installation. Why would you not do that? Like, you're gonna have to set it up in like 2 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
Like, enough to where you don't feel lost.
That's why I picked KDE, because GNOME is more Mac-like.
Connect to the internet. So Firefox is pre-installed. So this is application launcher. Oh, this is very Windowsy looking.
That's kind of why I chose KDE.
I know KDE people don't like to hear that, but it is true. KDE is very inspired by Windows design language. At least like Windows 7 design language. Not so much modern Windows.
Over GNOME is a little bit more Mac-like, KDE is a little bit more Windows-like, and so if you're, used to a Windows experience, I would recommend KDE.
That works.
You can buy our merch.
Websites.
Our merch is Linux.
Actually, a really cool merch though.
Wow, you can't get away from the constant Steam updater even on Linux, huh?
No.
Okay, so at this point, you should by now know how to log into your Steam.
I like KDE because it's very feature complete. There are areas where GNOME does do better. GNOME has a much better experience with on-screen keyboards. It is a bit further ahead with accessibility, but for regular users, it's genuinely just better to use KDE. By the way, I heard you say that over and over again, but do you remember which KDE article or dev said that? I think it was Nate. Yeah, I think it was Nate who... It was either Nate or Nico who's mentioned in the past that, like, he doesn't agree that KDE is Windows inspired. Was it when they implemented the floating bar? I think it was around that I had the discussion. But like, everyone everyone can see it, right? Like, we can pretend it's not the case, but like, it's really obvious that it is Windows inspired. And that's not a bad thing. Like, people want a Windows 7-like computing experience. That's not a bad thing. Just embrace it. Embrace the fact that you've taken that classic computing experience and taken it in your own direction.
You're gonna do that. I'd like to use the Steam utility or the Steam app to log in, so I don't have to remember my password. Let's see, OBS Studio. Hey, look at that. If they support Mac, they better support Linux. Oh yeah, and it does where's my mouse?
Of course. We now even have people who have no idea about Linux. Even they're bringing this up.
It gets all big.
I don't know if they fixed it, but when they first introduced this, it did not have an actual size limit.
All right. Download on FlatHub. com.obsproject.studio.flatpackref. I'm assuming that's File Explorer.
I think you can just click it.
So
I never actually downloaded Flatpak Ref.
Oh, cool. Nice. Okay.
Wow, that was easy.
I was worried that it was actually not going to be that complicated, or it was going to be more complicated.
But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to see without you showing me, can I navigate to something? Like, you know, on Mac OS, I always feel...
I don't think he started the download, by the way. I don't think he started the download. I think it's literally just on the screen. I watch you die, and I don't have electricity right now, so watch my phone, Sag. Well, at least you're watching.
Lost. And I've used Mac for years. But
it opened Discover. Cool. Yeah, he didn't...
Yeah, so a lot of
there he goes. Okay.
Programs I would hope would just link you to the right place in the store.
So the Discover store is... Bazzite uses primarily a Flatpak style.
This is actually slightly out of date now. Very slightly out of date. And I understand it because this was released yesterday. They haven't... Have they released it yet? Okay, they recorded this a little bit ago, but they, like... FlatHub literally just released their new, Bazzite literally just released their new app store. So, like, it's out of date, but only because it happened probably before, like, after they had recorded the video. This is, like, super, super new. It's apparently included in the new update. Yeah. Unless I'm wrong, it appears to be available? Hold up. Also, I was actually talking to Kyle about the whole Fedora 32-bit thing. He was quite annoyed by it happening. No, it's now default. It is now default in all Universal Blue images. But I don't think they've stripped out Discover. I'm not aware of... I can't comment on that. I don't think they've stripped out Discover.
App install. So the Discover store is basically the repository for that. So usually, if you're going to be...
Yeah, Kyle Gospo, the Bazzite guy.
Searching for an app, you would check Discover first, and then, or... If you do Google it and then you find out it's in Flatpak, then you...
Okay, so here's everything installed here. Clearly you can see there's also themes. I'm assuming you could retheme and reskin.
Yeah, that's what stuff is all...
The stuff that's already installed that has...
Can someone please get him to turn off the cursor increasing size? It's just in the setting menu. Please, can someone do it?
Updates need to be done, so you can just auto-update it from here.
Yep.
Yeah, this looks exactly like I'm used to seeing. Okay, so that actually... was very easy to get that. So far this looks very Windows-like. Now,
it's
big picture, obviously. So if we were to set this to big picture mode, whoops, which is what, right here? No, where is it? Right here.
Yeah, there.
So if you would select that setting that said single user, big picture, or Steam OS mode, this is what would boot. Like it would go through all the Bazzite stuff and then here. Yep. Like this is your OS at that point. Well, I don't care for big picture personally, but I just wanted to show people what that looked like. Show me how to find the games that are compatible with Linux. Because right now, this is going to show me the
answer is go to ProtonDB. Come on, tell it. Please mention ProtonDB.
And stuff. But obviously, not all of these games are going to work with Linux.
The way Linux runs games is if it's a Windows...
Not this one. Not Apex.
Windows game, it'll run through a compatibility layer called Proton, which is what Valve has developed for SteamOS and the Steam Deck to basically get
based Armored
support
Core
for Windows games without having the developers have to make a Linux native version. All of them will attempt to run via Proton, but
let's see what happens if I try and run this like super indie game.
Yeah, sure.
Best forklift operator. Before he even does that, I'm going to assume Platinum. Best forklift operator Steam. Proton. Apex dropped Linux. That is something that did happen. Yes. Gold. Okay. Only because no one's fucking playing this game.
I'm just curious. Now, while that's going, show me though where the store showed like the games that were like tested and
Anything that says it'll run great on Steam Deck is basically what you're looking for.
Mostly. There are cases of games now where they are working on Steam Deck but not working on desktop Linux because fucking dumb studios doing stupid things with anti-cheat. It should be the case. It really should be the case, but it's not.
Click the collections. Click create a new collection, and then create dynamic collection, and then if you go to the Steam Deck.
What the fuck? I did not know this was a thing you could do. Hold up. I'm learning something.
Thingy. You can do verified only, which is they verified it works on Steam Deck, verified playable, or verified playable and untested.
let's see.
Yeah, let's just see what
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, that's cool.
This is a very indie game.
chances are it should just
It'll just work.
as if it was Windows.
There
Hey,
you
look
go.
at that. It literally just worked. A completely untested game.
Yeah, it's
Hey.
working just fine.
A lot different from your last Linux experience, I'm guessing.
Oh my god.
So as you can see, if you stick to the Steam ecosystem,
No matter how good it runs, it's not going to help him be good at driving a forklift. Also, that's a Logitech mouse. That's
it's
cool.
very seamless. So if you're wondering what we're talking about when we're talking about a compatibility layer and Proton and stuff, so obviously a Windows game is going to expect Windows things like DirectX and...
Is it emulating the environment?
It's not an emulation, it's a translation. So what it does is basically
Yes, haha. Wine is not an emulator. Yeah. We know. Yeah, it doesn't. No one cares.
translates like DirectX to Vulkan, which is the Linux native graphics API and that sort of stuff. So the point I want to mention about the whole it's not emulation is that that's why the performance hit is so tiny and or sometimes even a performance gain.
Here's a true test. This game, the movies, is like 20 years old, maybe?
It'll probably run better on Linux than it does on Windows. Like, actually, no joke. A game that's that old probably will run better on Linux than it does on Windows. As a random example. Let me just... Give me a second to open Final Fantasy VII. It will take a second to open because Steam. Watch it just not work. That would be so funny. Steam, don't embarrass me now. This game has like a weird launcher it opens. There it is. Okay. Slow ass computer. This is true. Also slow ass dumb launcher. There you go. There, look, with Final Fantasy VII. Honestly, a game from the 90s actually will... For some reason, the game doesn't close, but this is just, again, Steam weird nonsense. 90s video games. Yeah.
In fact, it's not even on the Steam store anymore. It's just because I have it. So let's see if this will run.
Yeah, it'll run.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
It might be too old.
this one may not.
Okay, maybe not this one.
I saw like something
Yeah,
over here.
until I scrolled.
Oh, it might have weird... sometimes older games can be a bit funky with, like, how they want to render. And you gotta, like... Honestly, it might just be the fact that you need to change some settings to get this game to actually work. Oh! No, that's why it's not working. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's Windows codecs. You could probably get it working with Proton GE then.
Over like my.
Like, it literally needs them to just open.
So how do we now, like, force exit of a program?
Alt F4. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Alt F4 is still the same. Okay, cool.
Okay, so that one doesn't work. Okay, well, Locked Up was an indie game. The last major update was in 2020.
Might have to use Proton Tricks install as an yeah, probably. That's just what you get with, like, really old games either work perfectly or they have some stupid fucking codec, and that's why they break. There's, like, very little other reasons why games that old break.
21. Now, if you want to take the guesswork out of it, like you said, you can go to...
Proton DB.
Here, right? Linux stuffs.
I guess you can do.
And then we can go to
No, not yet.
Steam Deck and verified and playable. Right, that'd probably be our best compatibility there, even though we've got the yellow. So now, this will show us all the games that are, like, verified and playable.
For Steam Deck. Yeah.
Mostly. Some of them, their testing is not perfect, but yes, mostly.
For Steam Deck, which will translate over to Bazzite. All right, here we go. So
Mostly.
the last one we just did was an unknown game, Locked Up. It's just last played
This'll
today.
work.
Oh, there it goes. And that was an unknown. So just because it's not on the verified list doesn't mean it won't work. It just means obviously there's too many titles for them to have gone through and tested all of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it plays just fine. Look at that. Yeah, it's working fine. Okay, now the other launchers.
Okay, so if you're going to be running stuff off of Epic or GOG or Amazon games, you're going to look for Heroic Games Launcher.
It's just called Heroic.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So download from FlatHub.
Yep.
I don't
Now
ever
this is
use
going to
Heroic.
translate those other launchers into this OS.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to log into each one.
Yeah, whichever one you wanna download from. So right now let's try Rocket League, which will be on the Epic Game Store. So
Go to library. Hey, there's Rocket League. So
you just click
download. Nice. Oh no. Okay, wait. Alt F4. We fixed it.
yeah.
Okay, so obviously with how Steam works, it's very familiar layout enough to where you don't feel lost if you're trying to move from Windows to this. Obviously with Heroic, we could
Lutris.
do our other game launchers, and then you can use Lutris for like EA if you're playing EA games and such. Now we're talking about EA games and online gaming. That is where it's not all unicorns and rainbows because there's a problem with anti-cheat.
Well, okay, no, there's not a problem with anti-cheat. There's a problem with developers. The anti-cheat problem's solved. It's the developers that are the fucking problem.
Basically, all of the big AAA multiplayer games, unfortunately, are just going to be a no-go because of the
For the multiplayer aspect of it. If they have a single
Shooters, yes. Absolutely shooters, yes. Does Forza work? Like, does Forza Horizon work just fine on Linux? I don't play Forza. Forza Horizon 5. Let's see. Silver worked fine. Playing by yourself is fine. Runs flawless. After you manage to log in, works fine. Runs as expected. Wait, I'm confused. Some people are saying it works perfectly, but then others are saying you can't invite people to a group. I'm honestly not sure. Sure, there's issues with they can't even do kernel level stuff. Chinese gacha games have anti-cheat. Yeah, and a lot of them work on Steam Deck, which is funny. Does like, you know, let's the big ones right now. I know Horse Game Horse Game is obviously JP developer, but Blue Archive, does that work on Linux? Apparently Blue Archive literally just works. There's one guy who had a crash, but you're on Ubuntu LTS. Yeah, no shit you're having issues. Use a fucking real operating system. Yeah, everyone else is no problem whatsoever. ZCZ works on Linux and Genshin. I don't know about Honkai. I know that I know the alternative launcher works. I don't know about mainline Honkai.
Player version you can play, but
Yeah.
you can't play like Battlefield 2042 online.
Yeah.
They have an offline bot mode and stuff, but so many of these games are battle royales and online only.
If it relies on,
I knew ZZ worked. I didn't know about Genshin. Yeah, actually, now that you mention that, does main like actual Genshin work now, not like a third-party launcher?
anti-cheat where the anti-cheat developers have said no to Linux.
Because what about like easy anti-cheat?
Yeah.
Or EAC?
EAC is pretty much the big one, so
That does or does not work?
does not work.
Okay,
So
Why am I dropping frames? Stop dropping frames. Stop it.
games like Apex, Battlefield, Destiny, Fortnite, GTA, League, Roblox, Rust, Rainbow Six, Valorant.
Rust on official servers. Community servers, you can play Rust.
Again, all the big AAA titles that are going to be multiplayer are.
So even though we just
Not Counter-Strike, though. You can play Counter-Strike. You can also play Dota. So if you hate yourself, but not hate yourself enough to want to play League, you can still do that.
launched Rocket League, we wouldn't be able to play a match.
You could play a match on Rocket League. It doesn't use the easy anti-cheat.
You just listed Rocket League though.
No, I said Rainbow Six
Oh, they said Rocket.
and Roblox and Rust. Yeah. So older games like Rocket League that don't use easy anti-cheat are going to work fine. But yeah, that's pretty much the biggest.
And you were saying it's not so much
Roblox.
the fact that it doesn't work on Linux, it's just they don't want to take the time to really make it work.
That's the
Or
most,
keep it updated for Linux.
That's the most frustrating thing. Is because easy anti-cheat has Linux like binaries for their anti-cheat and stuff. It's just the game developers just.
It doesn't run in kernel mode. That's the main issue. If EAC on Linux ran in the kernel, they wouldn't have an issue with it. They actually would. I genuinely think that if it ran in kernel mode, if it ran in kernel space, I actually think we wouldn't have this issue. But because you could, it's like dead simple to circumvent anti-cheat on Linux. That's why.
They see Linux and they're just like, there's 10 million configurations, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to support it, so we just say no.
So that's the real downside. This is perfect for like single player
Yeah, single player GTA 5 works just fine.
gaming and stuff, or non-competitive online games that require the anti-cheat software.
Counter-Strike, though, you can play Counter-Strike. Let's not forget you can play Counter-Strike.
So just to kind of recap though, so it was, go to Bazzite, download the ISO, you downloaded Rufus, you created the ISO, we put it in over here, did a fresh install, all the drivers and stuff. You notice we didn't load a single driver. Everything worked on its own. The wireless, the keyboard, the mouse, the graphics card, everything, because you select all that when you're creating.
Do many CS Pro players use Linux? That's honestly a good question. I would assume no, but I can't say that for a fact. I don't actually know. You can probably find that out pretty easily.
Installer. Once we're up and running, the only things we installed separately was the Heroic Games Launcher, and that was it. Everything else was, an OBS. I installed OBS just to see if that would work.
Yep.
Sure.
But I gotta say, for a first, I would consider myself first time. I haven't used Linux in like 14 years. And again, that was Ubuntu, which was not like a turnkey solution like this where you just play games.
At least
So I
not,
think if you're
definitely not in the time when he would have tried it.
someone that's like, I want to mess around in Linux, I want to get my feet kind of like dip my toes in, but I don't want to be overwhelmed. I feel like Bazzite is a really good way to start. Now, to keep this video very authentic, the Bazzite team did reach out to me after we showed the video wall, but I did not respond to them other than to say, hey guys, thanks for welcoming me to the community. They did say if you have any problems or any issues, reach out to us. We can help you. But we
Sorry, Airmax is a pro Counter-Strike player? I'm sorry, what? Wait, I don't know this lore.
didn't have any issue other than the installer like hanged for a second. But when we rebooted, it continued on.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing we experienced.
And who knows, that could be some weird, like, our BIOS is so out of date.
The BIOS is very out of date on this system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it could be it.
and then as you can see, we were up and running as long as you know your logins to your stuff. So it was actually very simple. Now, I am very aware for all of you Linux elitists, which is so funny to say,
Yeah.
that this is
Linux YouTuber.
such a locked down, simplified version of what
No,
Linux
this is...
can
Don't listen to those people. Those people are stupid. This is a totally valid way to make use of Linux. If you want to have a simple gaming system, I fully encourage people to use Bazzite. Bazzite is if you want like a, you know, I'm actually coming around to this, right? Like, I do think Bazzite, for people that don't want to, like, delve into Linux, but they do want to get off of Windows, honestly, Bazzite might be the direction to recommend them at this point.
Linux can be as basic as this or as complex as you want to make it. That's what is an open source OS. That's what that's all about. And that's where, like you were saying, with Arch and other kernels.
Arch is not hard. If you want to actually waste some time, go do LFS. LFS is the true time waster.
And other distros, how you build your own OS based on the things you want to, you know, plug and play in there. And that and that's the thing. You can go from this to that, or you can add another drive or partition and have multiple distros.
Real men use LFS. True, brother.
If you want to start tinkering, this is a really good place to start, I think.
I mean, I think just the biggest positive is that, as you saw, there's just no bloatware, there's no nagging, there's no like blah blah blah, like, you know. I mean, like, watch, if you go to...
It really makes me wish 3D Mark worked on here. I'd love to know what the...
I know, that's another one big thing that I notice is 3D Mark doesn't work. So if you go to system settings, and then you go to, scroll down to, where's updates? Update software is by default manually, and if you click notification frequency, you can set it to never bother you ever about system updates if you don't ever want to.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Like, I know that you're like being, I know that you, I understand, but like, I guess if you're just saying I don't want to see notifications and you'll update whenever you feel like it, I get that, but like, I still think you should have, just like, you should know that there are updates available, right? Like, you should update your system when the updates are available. Just, especially with Bazzite, when you can just easily roll back.
Will never do that because that's how they continue to update the way they steal your data.
Update the spyware. Yeah.
All right, well, time to go. Guys, I understand this was just a scratching the surface level of Linux. I prefaced that at the beginning of this video. And that's where I said, if you guys, I would love to know where you diehard power Linux users feel the next logical leap from Bazzite would be for somebody that wants to start playing around. So like I said, please list down below. If you're gonna comment, keep it.
If your goal is to actually start, like, messing around with your system, honestly, I would say go look at something like a Nabara, go look at mainline Fedora. I would say that is the next logical leap if you actually want to play around with stuff.
Constructive and keep it useful. Say what distro you recommend, why, and its average user difficulty rating would be. And when I say average user, I don't mean average Linux user, but like average just Windows user, because you gotta assume they're coming from an environment where this is all new. I like the fact that it's immutable though, because I can't go in there and break it. You know, like you can go in the Windows registry and break everything.
Yeah.
All right, guys, time to get on out of here. I hope you guys have enjoyed our first touch into Linux. I'm debating potentially doing another drive in my system I just built and having it be just a Linux drive to screw around with that whole. Honestly, I'm really thinking about that. While the graphics card out, now's the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, if you're going to be constructive down below, put that information. It'd be very helpful to not only us, but anyone else looking at this, considering Linux for the first time.
Again, like I love the fact that you were just clicking random games in your Steam library of like, you know, who knows where it came from and like how old it was and stuff, and it was just working. Right. Yeah, most.
The only one that didn't work was the one that was from like 2003.
Yeah. And honestly, it might not even work on modern Windows either.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
That was a really good video. That was a genuinely good video. I am so happy that we're seeing actual good coverage from big tech YouTubers. Literally the only complaints I have are like minor nitpicks that you wouldn't know unless you were like spending way too much time digging into Linux. Like the fact that the Steam OS, or the Steam Deck verification is actually kind of not great. There's a lot of miscategorized games. There's a lot of games which I don't understand how, like, they're either categorized too positively or too negatively. There are games where they only work on Steam Deck, so you can't actually use it as like a full guide. But for the most part, that was a really good video. Honestly, a really good video, and I am happy to see it.